Greetings, folks, and welcome to the Electromaker Show. This is your midweek roundup of all things Maker and embedded and lovely. This week we have a bit of a different show because we're announcing the winners of the Raspad 3 competition. We're also announcing the beginning of a massive new competition, bigger than anything we've done before. But we also have to fit in all the usual talking about projects and funding website things and whatever I'm doing with my hands. So with all of that to get through, let's get on with the show. First up this week, the light flickering from the original Quake video game in the 90s. It was a very nostalgic game for me, one of my first FPS games. I truly loved it. In hindsight, I realized it was a glorified tech demo, but at the time it was Lovecraftian wonderfulness, and the sounds and all of it will just be with me forever. But the light flickering is a very small detail, you might think. And why am I talking about it on a Maker Show about hardware? Well, that's because it's been redone with hardware. So, this Hackaday article talks about the project. This is something that Rodrigo Feliciano has done, and this image that you were seeing here in the top right is a GIF of the original Quake, and this light flickering is a piece of code in the original code base that has been ported to Arduino, and the GIF in the background here is flickering at the same time because they are, well, the same time. There's a very interesting story behind this, one that I was vaguely familiar with already. In fact, if we go down the rabbit hole a little bit and follow the first link in this Hackaday, it will take you to the GitHub for this project, which, by the way, is definitely worth a read through. It also has a bunch of interesting information about how it all works. The coding of the lighting is coded in string form, very interesting thing. But if you follow the first link on this page, it will show you a post on Reddit that went somewhat viral, talking about the light flickering in Half-Life and the light flickering in Half-Life Alyx, games which are 22 years apart, being exactly the same. And this is the same code that was in the original Quake 1. There is some fascinating stuff in the comments here too. This is one of those nice rabbit hole projects. But yes, going back to the original thing, taking this code and porting it to the Arduino is something that I found quite fun. I'm kind of tempted to make myself a small, self-contained, I don't know, something Quake-esque out of it, just a little diorama or something, because it is probably the most nostalgic first-person shooter for me. Many people's early memories of first-person shooters are of Doom, and mine was definitely that as well. I did play Doom, but the one that really had the biggest effect on me was Quake. I remember getting it to run on my 486DX. I believe you had to have the DX version because it wouldn't run on the SX. Or I'm maybe forgetting the nomenclature there. But it ran at about 15 FPS. It was a pointless endeavor, and I still played it through and loved every second of it. Anyway, if you're interested in this, I will leave the Hackaday link in the description of this video, and you can see how this hacked light was hacked with an Arduino in order to make a Quake flicker lamp. There's a fantastic video about it too. Yes, the Reddit post goes into a lot of detail here too. You can see the actual source code from Quake through to Half-Life 1, 2, and it will probably be in Half-Life Alyx's codebase, not that that is public. Just a wonderful project with a wonderful piece of nostalgia built in. I will leave a link to it in the description. Now, moving on to an Arduino-powered painting machine. Arduino-powered art is nothing new. People have been putting Arduinos with stepper motors and all that kind of stuff, and putting pens in the hand and paintbrushes in the hand, making their own laser cutters and engravers. People have been doing stuff like that for a while. But this version of the Arduino painting machine is a little bit more expressionistic. In fact, I think the right piece of history is abstract expressionism, if I am remembering the little I learned at art college. This is a Jackson Pollock machine, as it were. This is a creation by JBV Creative, a channel I was not familiar with up until now, and he's taken a really inventive approach as to how to do this. So, looking at this image just here, my initial thoughts for this before I saw it, when I just read the headline, is that this would be lots of different tubes of lots of different kinds of paint, all feeding into one central reservoir that would then be flung. And I thought that would be a nightmare because if you ever had any kind of liquid flowing through a tube controlled by solenoid valves, or even just try to get filament through a single, two types of filament through a single Bowden tube of a 3D printer, you know that you have horrible run over and you never get a completely clear color of anything. This has a really nice way of doing it. As well as the servos that fire the paint, these servos will turn the spoon to one of these positions, and then these little valves will open up and let paint through. It's a wonderfully simple way of doing it. Well, I say simple. There's nothing simple about that. Come on, that's really complicated. But the idea behind it is very clear. I really like that. Rather than, as I said, my initial thought was very convoluted. This is a much clearer way of thinking about it, even if it still took a lot of engineering skill to get right. And I don't want to spoil the video. I'd like you to go and watch the whole thing yourself. But you can see here, it was under the blue paint, and then it fires it, and there you go. What a wonderful shot. And there is JBV Creative. And I suggest going to the YouTube channel and giving them a subscription because, yes, I think they could probably do with that YouTube money given the huge amount of plastic they probably had to cover their house in and the amount of paint they've had to clean up. It is time to announce the winner of the Raspad 3 competition. This was what we started on last week's show. I did a mini review of the Raspad, which turns the Raspberry Pi 4 into a functional tablet. I found it to be a decent tablet, but the best Raspberry Pi case I've ever come across, as it has a screen in it, and it has a full-size HDMI port. You can plug it into any monitor. There's a bunch of things I like about it. But anyway, this was a competition open to any subscriber to the Electromaker channel. All you had to do is say what you would do with it and put the hashtag Raspad3 as you are seeing here. But since we are here already, it's time to do a bit of quick housekeeping. If you aren't already subscribed to this channel, please do consider giving us a subscription. It does actually make quite a difference. Same with liking any video that we put out. If you click like, as I just unliked and reliked, that will also let YouTube know that you like this. They're more likely then to show other people who are into similar things to you our show, and it will help the show grow, and that is of course going to be a good thing for us going forward. And the third thing that you hear people do is to click that bell. Now if you do click the bell, you'll probably see it says you have personalized or none here. As far as I know, personalized and none do pretty much the same thing. But if you click all, it means that you will get a notification up in the top corner here whenever we put a show live. So here you can see I've been using this channel to do the call to action-y things in the show. Here you are, you can see what happens. Do note that this is a browser notification, not a desktop notification, unless you have said your browser can give you desktop notifications, but why you would do that is beyond me. We do also have a shop at electromaker.io, and if you are looking for components for a new maker project, this is by far the best way you can support this show. And if you do want to just come and generally hang out, we do have a Discord server. If you look under the community tab, you can click there and you will be invited to our Discord server, which is still in the early stages, but I'm looking forward to it being a place where we can share project ideas or go to try and help each other with things. If you are in the Discord server and you are working on something, feel free to drop it into the channel that is about that thing exactly. But yes. Oh, and of course, here is where you can upload your projects to the Electromaker website. As you well know, projects that are uploaded onto this site are frequently on the Electromaker show. It is always nice to see inventive projects on our site. Anyway, back to the Raspad 3 giveaway. So before we announce the winner, I would just like to say we had so many wonderful entries to this project, and no one entry is any better than any other, really. The main reason I want to hear what you would do with it is more out of interest than anything else, but there can only be one winner, and that winner was Brian C. With a comment that reads, "Curiously enough, I was working on a Home Assistant project right now for my family, chore tracking, grocery store lists, etc. The Raspad 3 would be very useful as an interface, especially because of the touchscreen to use for marking off chores and other functions of my project. The size makes it perfect for installing in the kitchen without it taking too much space." And this is a fantastic use case for the Raspad 3. It is perfect for a Home Assistant. I'm curious to know exactly what you'll do, whether you'll put Home Assistant's operating system on it. In fact, when you do get around to doing that, Brian, maybe you could upload it as a project to the Electromaker website, and maybe it'll end up being featured in the show. But congratulations, we will be in touch with you as to how we can get the Raspad 3 out to you. And as to everyone else that entered this competition, thank you for doing so. I know the promise of winning free stuff is a great incentive to comment on the video, but the fact that you did means that you are watching the show and involved enough to want to enter our competitions, and that means a lot to me too. But this is not the only competition bit of this video. In fact, we had to break it up into two sections because today we are also announcing a huge, even bigger competition than the one we have had before. But yes, we will get to that a little bit later. For now, we have other bits of the show to get through, so let's get back to the show. It is time for a quick edition of Funding Website Things, and we are starting this week on Kickstarter with the Oak D Lite. Now, you may find that name somewhat familiar because the Oak D was a massive success on Kickstarter. That was that OpenAI camera. That was an edge AI device that could do all kinds of fantastic things and was only a couple of $100s when it went live. It was even cheaper if you bought it on Kickstarter. They have improved and made smaller and made even cheaper that design, and it looks phenomenal. So, first things first, you can see they've absolutely smashed their goal already. They asked for 17,000 euros. They've made 545,000 euos. And by the time you see this, it is likely that the initial sales have gone. There was a $79 early bird version. There's only 6 left of the 2,429 of those. And there is an $89 version, which will also be going fast, I should think. Now, what is so exciting about this? Well, the Kickstarter video is fantastic. I suggest you go and watch that. That is a little bit too long for us to cover now, even if it is only 3 minutes long. This is it's a spatial video tool. You can see here it has the 3 cameras on it, and it is able to do depth perception on the camera itself. This is all stuff that happens on the edge. It is an edge camera. I keep saying edge. It is an edge camera that can do a depth perception. It can do 4K encoding on the camera, which is pretty exciting. That means that you could plug this into a Raspberry Pi Zero or similarly underpowered board and still record pristine 4K video. It's kind of amazing. And it also has an AI processor on board, which is the Intel Movadius Myriad X chip, capable of 4 trillion tera operations per second. And those 4 tops will get you a long way. That in and of itself is kind of cool, but one of the things I really like about this is how they're making it so that pretty much anyone could use it. So what you're seeing here is, well, exactly what it looks like. This is a block-based, and again, I always say Scratch alike, and I only say that because Scratch is the most familiar version of it. There's lots of block-based tools, but yeah, this is a block-based AI camera tool, and this is showing you just how quickly and simple you can get this up and running. It's incredible. It says even here, if you pass 6th grade, you've got this. Students, artists, Raspberry Pi hackers, K-12 educators, RC car racers, roboticists, Python developers, AR, VR enthusiasts, Unity hackers, computer vision and AI experts alike, and yes, anyone that can use block-based stuff. It just seems like it is really well set up to do whatever you want it to do. But as I mentioned, even if you aren't interested in all of the crazy AI stuff, in and of itself, a $79 camera that can shoot 4K is kind of incredible. But yeah, if you only did that with it, you would be doing yourself a disservice. Look at all the cool stuff that you can do with this. So yes, I think I've waxed lyrical enough about how good I think this is going to be, and one of the only reasons I do think it's going to be this good is because I know that the previous Oak D was also a fantastic piece of kit. Oak know what they are doing. So if you are interested in finding out more, I mean, if you can see the bar on the side here, I've hardly touched what this Kickstarter is telling you, and it's already told quite a huge amount. They've already absolutely smashed their goal. If you do want to get one of the early bird discounts, I would jump in there very quickly. By the time you see this, I imagine there won't be any of these left. And in case you are wondering, yes, I have already snaffled one of these. It will be making an appearance in some future Electromaker show in some way or other. But yes, I've just thought, I've always wanted to do an Electromaker show on the Raspberry Pi, and I could use this as the camera, couldn't I? Okay, that's a tangent. So I will leave a link to this in the description. And this is a very, very cool Kickstarter. I'm very, very glad that this has appeared when it has. It is a very exciting thing. We are moving over to crowd supply with Roendi, which is a wonderful project and also a wonderful name for a project. This is a rotary encoder with a display, Roendi. Simple, yeah, but a lovely name nonetheless. And what you can see is what it is. This is a little circular TFT display. This on the outside is a rotary encoder, and of course you can press that down too. And it can be a standalone development board, which has an STM32L433, so you can use it as a completely standalone board. All of these pads here can be broken out to do other things. This could be the basis of your entire project. Just slap this down on something, attach peripherals as you will, and this is your development environment. It works with STM Link, it works with the Arduino IDE, jobs are good 'un. But it's also something that might be very nice to add to already existing projects, because it can also be used as a peripheral device in and of itself. So it's very early days. It looks absolutely lovely, but as you can see from the form factor of this website, it is a pre-launch product. You can enter your email address here to get more information. I will definitely be coming back to this one when it goes live, because it's just such a lovely idea. So up next, CircuitMess. Now, this is a LinkedIn page, as you can see. It is not a funding website. But Albert Gazjak, whose name I've probably mispronounced, I apologize, started out some years ago on Kickstarter with MakeAbuino, sorry. Now, this was quite a big deal at the time. There are so many retro gaming consoles based around microcontrollers now, but at the time this caused a bit of a stir. It was a very successful Kickstarter. I don't remember when it was. Maybe the end, maybe 2016, I think this happened. Maybe 2017, if I'm remembering correctly. And this basically kickstarted a career. From the back of this, Albert created CircuitMess, and now is doing various STEM boxes, which are a subscription service where you get various things in a box that you can build on every few months. But the latest thing is the Batmobile. Yes, this is the CircuitMess Batmobile. Now, I should point out that the Batmobile is my favorite fictional vehicle. I'll try not to get too excited and gabble too much about this. This is a kit to build your own remote control Batmobile, but it's a lot more than that. As the LinkedIn post mentions here, it is an AI-powered DIY Batmobile kit, which is made in cooperation with Warner Brothers, which is a massive get. This is the most complex project yet. It will teach you the most cutting-edge technologies about machine learning, computer vision, digital image transmission, object recognition. So this is going to be an edge AI device. This is going to be a little bit like those robots that can use computer vision in order to learn their environment. But this is in the shape of a Batmobile. I'm so massively excited about this. So on the left here, this is the kit for the car. On the right, this is the kit for the remote control. There isn't much more information about this just yet, so we're going to have to wait and see. But look at this. Look how wonderful it looks. Oh, I'm in the way. Hang about. Look how wonderful that looks. So I will leave it at that for now. If you would like to know more about it, I will link this LinkedIn post, and I will that will take you through to this page, and you can sign up for more information on the Kickstarter here. Or of course, you can just follow Albert on LinkedIn and get more information about it that way. And also, as it says here, if you subscribe, you're going to get access to the VIP pre-launch on GitHub, not GitHub, on Discord. So yes, Batmobile, AI, Edge, very, very excited. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the show, we have a massive competition to announce today, but a few of you who are regular viewers might wonder what has happened to the mystery box. Well, the mystery box has had an upgrade. It is now an even bigger mystery box. Now, as you can see here, this is provided by the wonderful people at Mauser Electronics, but, oh, wait a second. There we go, mystery box confirmed. So yes, the mystery box has not gone away. In fact, we have a bigger and better mystery box, and we will be getting back to giving regular mystery box prizes away very, very soon. However, this week we are not doing a mystery box competition for a very special reason indeed. And the very special reason is this. This is MyCobot Pi. It is a 6 degrees of freedom robotic arm, which has a Raspberry Pi 4 in the base and an M5 Atom on the tip here. You can just see under my finger, that is an LED matrix and a button in one. And here is a grabber, which is an optional extra that fits into the M5 Atom here, and it can all be controlled from the base. And that's not all. This accessory is only one of the things that came with it. This is a little suction cup that also fits onto the end of the robot. And these things that you can see sticking out here, they are little Lego compatible clips. Everything that this robot does is pretty much Lego compatible, which is amazing. It means that you can get these optional extras, and spoiler alert, you totally should if you do buy this robot, especially this one. This suction grabber thing is fantastic. It's got a little air compressor in here that is controllable from the robot, and then it sticks onto things and it can lift up a fair weight, and a really impressive little bit of kit. And yes, here is that end piece that I was talking about, which is Lego compatible. There's a lot of really beautiful design that's gone into the hardware of this robot, and there is an API as well, which is really robust, that goes with it. I did do a full written review of this on the Electromaker website, and I will leave a link to that in the description of this video, along with purchase links for the MyCobot, so you can get it directly from Elephant Robotics, the guys that make it. So yes, if you really want to know the full extent of this robot, I would go and read my written review. It's a long form review, about 2,000 words, maybe a bit more than that, and it goes through pretty much everything that this robot offers. But for now, let's just do a very quick run through in video format. So first things first, this is the review that I was talking about. This is the long form review on the Electromaker website that I did a little while ago. I spent a fair bit of time messing around with the MyCobot Pi. I would have loved to spent even longer, but yes, of course we had to get this review out, and I wanted to get the giveaway happening on the show as quick as possible. As much as I would love to keep this robot on forever, yes, one of the main things I was excited about doing is being able to offer something quite so substantial as this as a prize on the Electromaker show. But in short, as you can see, I've already mentioned, you have a Raspberry Pi in the base, and this is a PVC piping with all of the servos and wiring inside it. It comes fully assembled. You can get this thing out the box. This bottom clamp clamps to your table. It fits together with the Lego compatible pieces. I don't know what you call those Lego compatible sockets, I guess. And then you can just get going straight away. You don't need to do any extra wiring. This grabber is an optional extra, as is the suction pump, which I will show an image of just here. There it is. But actually probably far better than this will be showing you some video, which I will do in just a moment. But as I also mentioned, I will link the MyCobot shop link, which is the Elephant Robotics shop, in the description of this video. It is available for $699. It is worth bearing in mind that both the grabber and the suction pump are optional extras you can also get from MyCobot. It's $699, but a lot of design has gone into this because MyCobot also make pro robots, which are a lot more expensive. These are used for research and in commercial settings and things like that. And I think it actually it's pretty good that MyCobot are known for making much more professional robots, because I feel like this shows in the design of this. I am by no means a roboticist or a specialist, but I've messed around with a lot of hobby robot arms. This one, I think, in terms of hardware, is the most robust. And yes, I found using the MyCobot Pi to be a relatively painless experience, but there was definitely some issues. If you are a complete beginner, there are things that you could do with this. I mean, the MyBlockly, which is their sort of Scratch visual block-based programming thing for using the robot, does work fairly well. The documentation for it is slightly lacking, but there are some tutorial. There is a tutorial there. They have this thing called the MyCobot Git book. The MyCobot Pi Git book is actually, I believe, just the Git book for all of them, because MyCobot Pi itself has one very small section under 6 here. It says MyCobot Pi. It shows you how to turn it on, as you can see here, and it shows you things like how to update the Pi MyCobot Python API library, and there are some general API descriptions here and a little bit of example code. There's a few slightly janky things that happen here, and I'll go into one of the specifics a little bit later. But as I mentioned, MyBlockly is probably the easiest way to get started with it. It is a block-based coding language. In fact, I can show you a little bit of it in action. It is, very similar to Scratch, but it has specific blocks designed for MyCobot and also for the Raspberry Pi GPIO pins. In fact, MyBlockly is one of the things where it's clear that they've put some effort into the actual Pi implementation of it, because you can use the GPIO pins from the same block-based program. It's kind of cool. But as I said, there are definitely a few issues here as well when it comes to the software side of things. I want to make it very clear, the hardware here is phenomenal. If I had the choice of getting any of the MyCobot line, at least of the non-pro line, I would be getting the Pi version regardless of these issues, because having a powerful Linux computer in the base of the robot is just a joy. Just being able to SSH into the robot and work with it, or use VNC, is a massive joy. But for example, there's the example code for the suction pump is one issue. So once you have it all set up, it tells you which pins you should connect it to. However, those pins do not exist on the Raspberry Pi. This suction pump API, the Python part of the suction pump, is designed to work with the M5 Basic, and that M5 Basic was to be plugged into a separate Linux machine or separate computer. So the problem is you're using you're using the Python API from a computer, and you're setting these outputs out to use the suction pump, and it will not work. Even if you plug it into the corresponding pins on the Raspberry Pi, that's not how the Raspberry Pi pins work. Now, that's a tiny issue, and to write my own driver took literally minutes. You just write it using the Python library for the GPIO, and you put it in. But the base code, so this MC set basic output, part of the Python API, at a base level will not work with the Raspberry Pi. That is a tiny issue if you know what you are doing, but if you don't, it's going to be frustrating. And it's worth pointing out as well that throughout this Git book, which is not just for the Raspberry Pi version, it covers a lot of different stuff. In theory, this Git book could be quite good, but there are broken links pretty much throughout. If you want to find any of the actual source material of it, you'll need to go to their GitHub. It's not without issues. I don't want you to think that that is a negative, really, though. If you read the full-length review, you'll see I go into a bit more detail about some of those things. They are minor annoyances, but one thing that I do want to make very clear is that, yes, this robot arm, in terms of hardware, is far and away the best I've ever used. Anyway, I think that is enough waffle just for now. I will leave a link to my long-form review of the MyCobot Pi in the description, and of course I will leave the link to their shop if you would like to buy one of your own, although now of course you also have the option of winning one, so let's go into how you can do that. So, on to the competition part. This is by far the biggest thing we've ever given away on the Electromaker show, and it makes me very happy that we can. It's a sign of the times that we're able to give away something this awesome on the show. But despite that, this is going to be more or less a similar contest to the way we always do things. If you are a subscriber to this channel, leave a comment saying what you would do if you won the MyCobot Pi, and leave the hashtag MyCobotPi without any spaces. So all of that stuff up there. The one thing that is going to be slightly different is since the show is going out slightly later in the week than usual, and we want to give as many people as possible the chance to enter this, this competition is going to go on slightly longer. So we will be announcing the winner of this prize in the show after next, which means that you have a little bit longer to enter. So essentially, if you would like to enter this competition, do those things before this date. At this time, on the end of this day in European time, that's when the entries will close, and everything after that won't be part of the competition. We'll be picking all of the entrants in that time frame. So yes, these are the ways you can enter this competition, and I don't want to give this robot away. I had so much fun with it. Just before we end this section, I do want to reiterate that while I do point out some issues with the documentation and the software, it isn't great that some of the links are a bit broken, and that's not a problem just with Elephant Robotics or MyCobot. That's a problem that seems to plague most hobby-level hardware stuff these days, and that's fine. I understand. It's not easy to have a completely maintained documentation, and sometimes links turn into dead links when you're working with a lot of stuff online. I get that. But I want to reiterate that despite pointing out some of the issues with the software, in terms of hardware, this is far and away the best robot arm I've ever had the pleasure of messing around with. There are other hobby robot arms I've used that will remain nameless, that are not that different in price, that are not very well built, whereas the actual hardware side of this is fantastic, and you can see the pro side of MyCobot coming out in this. They clearly are used to making high quality robotics, and to get all of this working in a $700 shell is just fantastic. It really is. Anyway, I have waffled enough, maybe because the longer I talk about it, the longer I get to hold it and not have to give it away, but we do have a show to get back to, so maybe we should. So anyone that enters this competition, good luck. We're going to close out this week's show with a little news from the Raspberry Pi Foundation, but before we do that, it would be remiss of me to not mention at all the sad passing of Sir Clive Sinclair. There's not really anything I can say that hasn't already been said far better than I could say it by other people, other than, like many, the ZX81 was one of the first computers I ever had my hands on. I was too young to have the kit myself, but my father built one. I do think it's a prescient thing that in this day and age when electric vehicles are such a hot topic, that so the Sinclair C5 was the first commercial electric vehicle, as far as I know. I might have that wrong. And while it wasn't a massive success in its time, it does give you some idea as to how on the pulse and future thinking Sir Clive Sinclair was. And by the same token, someone who wanted to get computers into the hands of everybody who wanted them and try to make them affordable and usable. Yeah, just obviously a great person. I'm not going to say much more than that. As I said, there's plenty of wonderful tributes to him out this week, but I didn't want to let this show go by without at least mentioning it. Anyhow, yes, moving on to the Raspberry Pi Foundation, and the Astro Pi Challenge is back. Now, it seems like just a few weeks ago we were talking about the last Astro Pi Challenge and the results. Now, if you're not familiar with this is a Raspberry Pi kit that is sent out to various schools and various people for them to develop stuff on, and then the exact same kit exists up on the International Space Station, and you can probably see where this is going. If your project that you worked on is chosen as a winner, it actually gets done in space by astronauts in a real spaceship, and that's what I'm going to call the ISS. It's a spaceship. You can't convince me anything different. It's an immensely exciting competition. It's something that I wish I had the opportunity to be a part of when I was a school kid, because it mixes doing fun hobby little tinkering with space. There's no two cooler things. Now, one thing that's super interesting about this particular version of the Astro Pi Challenge is they're upgrading the Raspberry Pi that is going to be up in the ISS. They're sending up a Raspberry Pi 4, which is the Model B, 8 gigs of RAM, and with a high quality camera on it, which is cool. But this is super interesting. A Google Coral Machine Learning Accelerator. That's one of the little USB drive things that you can plug into a Raspberry Pi or anything, which will give it a coprocessor for doing machine learning tasks on. A very cool thing. Along with the same color and luminosity sensor and passive infrared sensor that I believe was on the last little box too. And I love these Astro Pi cases. I think they're so cool and rugged looking. And you can see here the chunky camera sticking out the back of this one. And this is what will be up on the ISS. And this is what the students who are working on the projects will be targeting. So I will leave a link to this blog post which tells you everything you need to know. There are also a couple of super interesting videos in this. If you are an educator or if you are a student who wants to be involved, do head over here and do follow the links. There's a link straight out to the AstroPi website as well. Yeah, this is a fantastic thing to get involved in, and it's your chance to get your code running on a real computer in space, on a spaceship. It's really a spaceship. I'm telling you, it's a spaceship, not a space station. It's a spaceship. That was our show for this week. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for all of the support you are showing this show on YouTube and elsewhere, especially people who are buying stuff from the Electromaker store. That makes a massive difference. MyCobot Pi is the biggest giveaway we've ever done, so it took up a big chunk of the show, but next week we'll be getting back to semi-normal, and as I mentioned, we have a huge new mystery box to break into, and there's going to be lots of interesting stuff to talk about too. But anyway, for now, as always, I hope you have a fun, safe, and creative week, and I will see you in the next one.